officials from MPPs, mayors, MPs, and councillors, and interviews them on what they've done, why they got into politics, and what they are looking forward to doing. Today, joining me is the Honourable Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce. Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this interview. I just wanted to dive right into my first question. COVID-19 has been tough for everybody. And as the Minister of Education, what initiatives are you going to take to ensure a safe return for students back to school in the fall?
You know, the commitment to families across this province is to keep their children safe. It's why we closed schools, the first in Canada to do so, to help keep families and children safe from COVID-19. With respect to September, we have said that we're going to codify, we're going to allow parents to have a choice. We're making that a major element of our plan. Parents, you are in the driver's seat if you want your child in class or if you want them to have a enhanced online learning experience. Your choice, you get to make that decision well into August. With respect to the plans, we are asking school boards in conjunction with the ministry to build 3 plans. A plan for in-class, day-to-day, more conventional learning with heightened health protocols. A second plan for online and remote learning, if God forbid we have to send our kids home again. And the third option is a blended option, an adaptive option, which is sort of every other day or every other week type classes where we cut the classrooms in half, no more than 15 kids in a class. The kids are groups and they're cohorted together, which really limits the risk and it enhances the efficacy of contact tracing. So it actually it allows kids to be kids. They can play together and study together and learn together, but we keep them sort of as a unit, try not to, interact with other classrooms and of course, which could create risk. So the cohorting method, the blended method is what we're sort of encouraging school boards to start with in September, but to be prepared for each and every one of those scenarios. They have to be approved by the local health officer. And obviously they have to ensure that kids can achieve 2 things. 1, their safety, and 2, they are continuing to learn irrespective of what happens.
Right. So what are parents moving, I'm sure you guys have done some sort of focus group of surveys. What are parents leaning more towards? I know parents and especially the students are getting a little bit agitated. They want to get back to school. They want to see their friends. So are they leaning more towards an online? Because I have spoken to a couple of teachers and they say that online education is quite tough. So are they looking more towards sending their kids to school or keeping their kids at home?
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest this is all what we just had the last few months was not online learning as much as it was really distant, remote learning. But we are building a plan for a much stronger online learning experience for students in Ontario. I mean, look, parents, I think it's a bit early to tell. I think a lot of them have said to me they're going to wait another month or so, look at the data and the readiness of our schools and our school boards to reopen, but they like the choice. They respect the fact the government has put over $730 million more in public education for this September, for the upcoming school year, $10 million more in mental health, $15 million more in technology to buy 37,000 computers for kids that don't have them. And of course, new monies for hiring custodians and $4 million to procure hand sanitation and soap and things that are going to improve hygiene in our schools. So we're investing more. We're obviously preparing for all scenarios. We're giving parents choice. And at the end of the day, we're transparently telling people that we want kids in class every day. We just want to get the September restart done well. So, as you can appreciate, 2 million kids will have been out of class for 6 months come September. So the system hasn't had a child in it for half a year. I want to make sure that every school board in Ontario is set up to succeed, which is why we're taking a cautious start for September, and then we can scale up from there the months thereafter.
That's excellent. So I know that a lot of people had the concern of classroom average sizes, and then you made an announcement where we would have about 23, and now we're going down to 15. And I've talked to a lot of parents, and I'm a Miltonian, so I can only talk about what happens in Milton and what I'm hearing. And they say there's a huge lack of schools for new schools, and developers build these communities, but the new schools are not being built at the same rate as your population. So, for example, we have a school named Jean Vanier in Milton, which recently got its name changed to St. Francis Xavier. They say that St. Francis Xavier is over 155% over capacity. It's got about 2,244 students. So when you're saying 15 students per classroom, and with additional portables in this school, there's about 60 portables in total in this school. So how is that going to pan out? Paint that picture for me. 15 students per classroom. A lot of people want to go to school. So how is that going to work out? And with that desk spacing, where is the space going to come from?
Well, for the month of September, the adapted model that we're recommending for September, that's to essentially take the normal day and we're cutting the classroom size in half so that so students would be in class every other day or every other week. And that's how there's not a need for more room because we're essentially taking what normally would have been 25 kids in the class, we're capping it at 15 with sufficient spacing between each child. An average classroom size of about 750 square feet. So sufficient room for 15 kids plus a teacher. That is permitted within the existing space. So we're not going to need to, acquire additional space. But I will tell you that when it comes to building these schools, the people of Halton, fast-growing community, they were largely ignored by the
really fast-growing community.
Very fast-growing, a lot of young
Yes.
families too with kids.
Yes.
They were ignored by the former government, the former Liberal government. And I'm proud that Parm Gill, Effie Chintopoulos and Jane McKenna and many other colleagues that represent that community have been unabashed advocates, strong advocates for schools being built. And I'm proud to report that the Catholic and public boards in Halton will see benefits, will see new schools being announced in their communities in the coming weeks. We have good news to bring really to the regions right across the GTHA, right across Ontario. We're going to be spending over $500 million to build new schools this year and to renovate existing ones. That's our commitment to make sure that these schools are up to date and that they're not over capacity. Because as you said, we came to power 2 years ago and we have schools at 175% occupancies. It's not acceptable, nor is it safe. So we're going to obviously take action and spend important resources to improve education and improve the facilities that house our kids.
Right. So you mentioned Parm, and so my question to you is, Parm Gill, I'm sure you've had conversations with him on, developing and bettermenting the education concept here in Milton, of course, Halton with the other MPPs. What exactly are you hearing from MPP Parm Gill that is there a plan in play, or is it just hard work? What exactly is he saying?
Well, look, Parm is an incredibly strong advocate for the community. He's a former member of parliament, and he knows how to get things done. And so what he's making clear to the ministry, to myself and to my colleagues is that fast growth communities need to have equal access and opportunity to investments. They can't be ignored any longer. And his message is heard loud and clear. And I'm looking forward to announcing important news for the people of Halton. People who work hard, play by the rules. They're tax-paying Canadians, and they deserve good social services. And I'm letting you know that this government, this progressive conservative government, is going to get the job done. Yes, in Halton, in Peel, in York, in Durham, in Toronto, in really every region of the province, because we have a plan to invest in what matters most, in new schools, in an updated curriculum, with a focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We're putting more money on the table, over $700 million of new investment. And on top of all of this, we've created a health protocol that I think is going to really keep kids safe, informed by some of the best medical and scientific leaders in the nation at Sick Kids. The chief medical officer of health and many others worked closely with us to develop this plan. And the plan is premised on one fundamental, which is safety.
Fantastic. I know your schedule is super tight, so I'm going to skip over a few questions and dive into specific questions that I've had parents talk to me about in Milton, in Halton. Specific program and course cuts. For example, cuts to special needs programs as well as creative programs. I know there's a program in Toronto from Stephen Leacock that's a media production specialized program that was cut. So how would you respond to those individuals that want to take a creative route towards their careers and those individuals that have special needs and the cuts that were made to special needs? Will those cuts be reverted now that we're in COVID-19 and we're moving into a different era?
Well, I just want to correct the record. There has never been a reduction in special education funding in our government. I can't speak for the former Liberals. The highest investment ever recorded in Ontario history in special education is happening today under our government. That's just a matter of fact. In every board, including Halton, in Toronto, in Peel, in Dufferin, in every single board, investment is up. In fact, in the announcement I made with the Premier yesterday, every board in the province of Ontario under our government is receiving more investment, including for spec ed. We've doubled the mental health portfolio from just shy of $20 million under the Liberals to almost $40 million. And I added another $10 million this week for September. We have hired more EAs. Thousands of additional EAs can be hired as a result of our negotiated settlements. So I just want to respectfully reject that premise. I'm not sure where that could have come from, but certainly not the budget and the facts.
Right.
School boards make decisions on hiring. School boards make decisions on hiring and firing, obviously. So I refer you to them if they made a reduction in a service or a program they'll have to rationalize that to the people of their community. I have, through the ministry, provided more money in those areas because we believe it's important. And that's why special education children will have accommodation in September's plan. They're there every day, not every other day, should the board pursue the adaptive hybrid model. So they're going to be accommodated. We've hired more EAs, we've hired more programs. In fact, normally for mental health supports, for example, those supports end the last day of school. I've told boards continue funding those psychologists, psychotherapists, social workers right through to September to create a continuity of service and a continuum of care.
I know we were talking about MPP Khalid, and I had the pleasure of interviewing the Honorable MPP Khalid Rashid, and when I was talking to him, he mentioned that the Ford government is investing $1.3 billion into education in the next 3 years, and he also stated that this was his quotations, we're investing $13 billion in the next 10 years into our education system. So students and voters want to know exactly where is that 1.3 billion, 13 billion is going to be invested. Break it down for me. So beyond the numbers, beyond the billions, beyond the millions, what is that looking like? Is that going to be, I know you mentioned renovations, you mentioned new schools. Could there be a potential increase in teacher numbers, especially with the idea of going down to 15 students per classroom? So paint that picture for me.
Yeah, we keep in mind, what I'm suggesting is we're not hiring more staff we're not hiring more educators, because we're going to be literally cutting the class in half, and the same teacher on Mondays teaching the same class, the next half the kids on Tuesday. So it's rotating every other day or every other week. So, but the fact is, under our government, yes, we are investing more, $13 billion in capital to build new schools over the next decade. That's the number that Khalid rightfully is pointing out, because we're building new schools. We're expanding schools after a decade of inaction by the former government. We're investing the per pupil average, for example, the amount of money we spend per child is reaching $12,525. That's up $250 per child in the province of Ontario. We put $213 million in a support for students fund. This fund allows for hiring of specialized teachers, STEM teachers, math teachers, mental health workers, spec ed supports and teachers, as well as language program instruction. So the point is, we created a fund, $200 million, to hire more of those critical workers and educators to support our kids in the areas that matter to parents. And that obviously, includes, spec ed, mental health, and STEM education, but also it allows for hiring of custodial workers to keep schools clean. And so we've invested in critical areas of capital. We're up in professional development of our educators, of technology to get more laptops out there, and in mental health. We're investing more in really ensuring that the system is ready for the restart, so that's positive and that's safe.
I'm really happy to hear that, and those parents that and those individuals that have raised those concerns about special needs programs and mental health. I'm glad that they were able to hear directly from you on your stance and your standpoint. Finish the sentence for me, Stephen. Education is.
Education is one of the most important investments a government can make in the next generation, and our government will continue to do so with a great sense of confidence that these young people will succeed and overcome the challenges ahead.
What do you hope to achieve in 2020?
Well, we want to continue to provide quality education, stability for kids, and ultimately modernize the system so that it reflects the 21st century, that our young people get the skills, the competencies that they're going to need in a very competitive job market, so that they can succeed, they can graduate, and of course, be able to have an ambitious career ahead.
Very happy to hear that. Stephen, I just want to thank you so much for your time in doing this interview. I know with cabinet meetings and so many things, you were amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sammy. Cheers.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching Canada One. We will continue bringing on elected government officials. Keep watching us. If you have any questions or concerns about the program, please email us at info@canada1.tv or leave your comments in the box below. We love reading your comments. Thank you very much for watching.